Hello, everybody. Let's get this thing started. All right, so this is going to be the first of what I'm going to be calling the Rogue Show for now. We'll kind of see if that sticks, see if that's something we actually want to go with. And basically, the idea behind this is that we will be basically picking maybe a couple subjects that we're going to talk about, and then from there it's going to be you guys kind of deciding what we talk about during these things, and they're going to be about 20 to 30 minutes. In fact, I'm going to probably have this be about 20 minutes, and I got to do some things, and I'm going to get on Battlefront 2. So that's kind of the game plan. And in between videos, if you leave a comment in the comments after the video is done, then we can kind of decide what the topics will be for our next stream on this. But yeah, let's get into this, and we'll go back and forth depending on if there's comments and different things, and kind of just talk about these two different things. One of the favorite duels is Starkiller versus Shaak Ti. I unfortunately, I've never played Force Unleashed. That's where I probably have to watch like the video of it. I'm sure there's plenty of YouTube videos of people showing the cinematics and cutscenes from that game. So, but I know that Shaak Ti was a pretty good duelist, so wouldn't surprise me if Shaak Ti was one of the better, or had one of the better lightsaber duels in the history of Star Wars. I do think that when you talk about the best lightsaber duel in the history of Star Wars, I think you almost have to start with Anakin versus Obi-Wan in Revenge of the Sith. I think that's kind of a no-brainer. In fact, I did a little research, kind of looked to see what other people's lists were. And almost every single one of them had Obi-Wan versus Anakin as their number one lightsaber duel. And I kind of have to agree with that. I think there's a couple that, especially from the animated series, that I think are just absolutely phenomenal. Ahsoka versus Maul, Ahsoka versus Vader, that I think are just absolutely phenomenal. But yeah, I think that I would say that probably the best of all time was Anakin versus Obi-Wan. Let's see, in the comics she almost defeated Starkiller because she was a better duelist, but Starkiller was a better Force user. From what I've heard, Starkiller was like way over OP when it came to the Force. And I've said this before, I'm glad that he is no longer considered canon, even though I do believe, and I think it would be cool to bring him back into canon, but maybe not have him be as powerful as what he was in there. I think it's in the best interest of Lucasfilm and Star Wars for Anakin to remain the strongest overall Force user, the most Force potential, natural Force ability of anybody in Star Wars, with Palpatine and Yoda being kind of tied for second. I think it's best if they keep it that way and not introduce characters that could be more powerful than Anakin, because except for maybe later on, maybe eventually, many years from now, they do something with Star Wars that's 100, 200 years later after these, and then it would be cool. I think it would be cool to maybe introduce somebody that was more powerful than Anakin, but it needs to be in the future, and it needs to we need some more time. It needs to almost be when a lot of the original trilogy trilogy fans are no longer around for the most part. Let's see. Chat. So this it's one of the problems I'm having right now is that this poll that I have up here, I wonder if it's making me choose one so I could get it out of the way of the chat. I'm going to try that out real quick, see if I can get that so that I can actually see the chat. Yeah, okay, so it's not gonna let me. All right, so I'm gonna hold on a second, I'll just pull up on this real quick. Gray Line, man, I want to see Valkyrian become canon. I'm okay, so who is Valkyrian? Let me look this up real quick. I don't think I've ever heard of Valkyrian Star Wars. Let's see who that is. Cinematic trailer for he was in the, was he during the let's see, that the Old Republic, about 3,600 years before the Battle of Yavin. So he was around quite a while ago. Okay, so yeah, so I don't know enough about him either. The ones that I would definitely put up there would definitely be Anakin, Obi-Wan. I would have Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn versus Maul. Obi-Wan versus Maul part 2 and Rebels, and probably Dooku versus Anakin and Obi-Wan, Dooku versus Yoda, Yoda versus Palpatine. I think those are some of the best duels. I wouldn't consider anything where there's just a lightsaber on one side to be an actual lightsaber duel. So like the hallway scene for Vader or the hallway scene from The Mandalorian for Luke wouldn't really count, I guess, as a lightsaber duel. But as of right this second, I'm definitely going to go with unless somebody could kind of change my mind. I think the Anakin versus Obi-Wan and Revenge of the Sith is probably the one I think is the best of all time. Luke versus Vader in Episode 5 near the end is underrated. And the thing is, this is before Lucas, I think, had really understood the potential of lightsaber duels and what he could have if with the choreography and all the CGI and stuff like that they could do later on. So the duels in the original trilogy were fairly unathletic. They were more like legitimate, real sword fights, and I think that's what Lucas was going for when it came to the original trilogy lightsaber duels. But this is but later on, like especially after they did the original or the prequel trilogy, and even in the sequel trilogy, there are a few pretty good lightsaber duels in there, even if it is a little unrealistic that Rey was able to hang with Kylo in a lightsaber battle. They were still choreographed really well. I would say the sequels, if anything, were kind of an in-between. They were more athletic than the original trilogy, but they weren't as fantastical as what they were in the prequel trilogy, because the prequel trilogy maybe went a little bit too much acrobatics and all that stuff, but still at the same time, I mean, I probably enjoy watching most of the prequel lightsaber duels more than I do any other era, to be honest with you. I want to go on to the what will Grogu become, because I think we're right now in a time period where they're getting ready to start production on Mandalorian season 3. I don't know that we're gonna see Baby Yoda and Luke in Mandalorian season 3. I just have this feeling that it's going to be about Bo-Katan and Din Djarin, and the kind of the path that they have to go on, because obviously Bo-Katan wants the Darksaber, but wants to have it legitimately this time instead of just having it handed to her so that she could rule Mandalore again. And I think it's going to be a lot about them having to come together to save Mandalore and to bring the Mandalorian people together. But as far as Grogu's concerned, he's going to show up somewhere. I'm not sure what show it's going to be. I'm still anticipating that eventually we're going to get confirmation that there's going to be a show with Luke and Grogu, and kind of a Luke Skywalker builds a new Jedi temple, builds a new Jedi order. And I think there's going to be a lot about him having to learn about the past of the Jedi, learning about what they did wrong, and kind of trying to build his own new Jedi order, which is going to be different. It's going to be different than what it was before. I mean, he was training Leia to be a Jedi, despite the fact that Leia was married, and I can't remember if she had already had Ben or was having Ben. I'm trying to remember what they said in Rise of Skywalker, which when she quit, I think she might have been pregnant with Ben. But at the same time, it's pretty obvious that Luke was okay with Jedi having significant others and children and attachments. So I think Luke was going to do it differently. But going back to Grogu, I think that, first of all, let's be realistic. I put one of the options was that it's Kylo's first kill, which is kind of funny that 40% have that on there. And I think that whoever voted on that, I'm guessing, did it as a joke. Because I don't think that there's any. Let's just be realistic. There's no way Disney's going to allow Lucasfilm to kill off Baby Yoda / Grogu. It is the most popular character from the Disney era. He's one of the most popular characters in the history of Star Wars, and there's zero chance that they allow Grogu to die. At least not for many, many, many years. And then that's the other thing, is he has a potential to live hundreds of years. And if Star Wars ever decides they want to do a time jump so they can really start fresh and just start with brand new characters, I'll look at that. I'll look at that gray line. Why do you think that? Do you really think Kylo is gonna kill Baby Yoda? You think that's gonna be confirmed on there? Gosh, I just don't think it's going to, because let's say, if they want to do a jump ahead into the future by a couple hundred years, which I think that there's a legitimate chance they do, so they could tell stories that take place after Rise of Skywalker, but don't have to worry about, where's Rey, where's Finn, and all them, because they would be long dead. But you could take somebody like Grogu, Baby Yoda, or whatever, and you can put him in those stories as an adult, and you already have a character that people are going to want to know what happens with them, and we guarantee an audience for that show or that movie. But that's the thing, is they're going to have to explain that, and Filoni and Favreau are going to be able to explain what happened to Grogu. In fact, I think that if there's a Luke series, or if he comes back to the Mandalorian, I think there's a good chance that they will explain what happened to Grogu, because he wasn't on that planet. He was not being trained by Luke Skywalker at the time that Kylo burned down the temple and basically had his split with the light side and fell to the dark. He wasn't there. In my mind, I don't think there's any way that he was there. So what was he off doing? And that's where I think, my vote on this is that he becomes the second Mandalorian Jedi. And if he gets trained with Luke enough to be able to be a legitimate Jedi for a few years and gets his training there, he goes back to Din Djarin, joins him, and eventually he gets his little Beskar armor and all that and becomes a Mandalorian. And I still think that there's a chance, even though I don't I used to think that there was a really good chance this was going to happen, but now I'm kind of on it. But I think that there's a chance that we find out that Grogu is the title character of The Mandalorian. It's not Din Djarin. And that this series will basically end with him becoming a legitimate Mandalorian. And I think that'd be kind of a nice little twist, because I think a lot of people think of the Mandalorians as a species or a people or a planet, and really it's a creed. So just like any species can become a Jedi, any species can become a Sith, any species can become a Mandalorian. I think it would be kind of cool to see this little, I mean, can you imagine how much merchandise they'd sell of a little tiny green Grogu in a Mandalorian armor? It would be adorable. And plus, they wouldn't need to really melt down too much Beskar to make that, so it'd probably be pretty easy on their part. But I really do. I think that he will become the second Mandalorian Jedi. I think that that's kind of the direction they're going to go, because I think he's going to end up wanting to be back with his, basically his father, his father figure in Din Djarin. And I think Luke will hold on to Grogu long enough to be able to train him to control his fear of losing Din Djarin, fear of, or just make sure that he's not going to fall to the dark side. And I really think that's going to happen. And I think that, even though I don't expect Luke and Grogu to be in season 3 of The Mandalorian, if there isn't a Luke show, and I'd be surprised if there isn't, I really feel like they're going to have a Luke Skywalker show. I think that season 4 of The Mandalorian, I think we'll see Grogu back, and we'll find out what happened to the little guy in the meantime. And I think at that point it'll become very clear that Grogu and Luke kind of part ways, and that Grogu was not there on the temple when Kylo burned it down. But I think that would be kind of, I think it's an interesting question to ask. I don't think that there's any kind of real wrong answer on it, because none of it's been answered. We don't know where these characters are going to go. But the moment that we found out that Grogu was going with Luke, the higher ups on Lucasfilm had a conversation with Jon Favreau and said basically, and Dave Filoni said, if Grogu goes with Luke, then people are going to assume that he was with Luke when Kylo went to the dark side, and they're going to start thinking that he probably got killed. How are we going to handle that situation? In my opinion, Mandalorians are a group of people in a clan. If the Mandalorian people are in a wars or factions like Death Watch, if you're not, then you're just a Mandalorian citizen. Yeah, well, this is the thing, is Duchess Satine, even though she was a ruler of Mandalore and she was a ruler of the planet, she was never a Mandalorian in the sense of the creed. She wasn't part of that culture. In fact, she was kind of trying to wipe out that culture. So there's a difference between being the leader of the planet and being the leader of the Mandalorian people. And I think that's where there's probably a lot of confusion on a lot of people's parts. And I think that Duchess Satine is probably the reason why there was that confusion. She kind of put this barrier, or this separation between Mandalore, the people, and the planet, and Mandalorians as far as this warrior culture, by trying to get rid of the warrior culture on it. And I think this is what would be interesting to see in the future, is that what is Bo-Katan really trying to become the leader of? Is she trying to become the leader of the planet and get Mandalore as a planet back together, and become a leader of that? Or is she trying to become the Mandalore, the leader of the Mandalorian warrior culture, bringing all these clans together? Because once again, there's a difference in that. And you could tell during the Empire, whether it was, Clan Ren or all these different clans that had to come together to go against the Empire. The planet as a whole was fractured on that, but it was back to clans. It was back to warrior clans. And I think that's probably where it is now. Any Mandalorians that are out in the galaxy doing whatever they have to do to survive, a lot of them are probably just part of these different clans with no intentions of ever reuniting with fellow Mandalorians to go back to the planet, or to just start out overall just one Mandalore, one Mandalorian people. So it's interesting. I do think that Din Djarin or Bo-Katan will end up being like the leader of Mandalore when this is all said and done, and I think Grogu's going to be along for the ride. But anyways, I think that's where I'm going to end this right now. I actually really want to get on Battlefront 2 here in just a minute. Just wanted to do a little bit of show right here, get something new started, and I'll be doing these a little bit more often, and I'll get some polls up. And if you want to kind of give an idea of what we should talk about next time on this show, on the Rogue Show, put something in the comments. Not in the comments right here, but once the video actually goes public after the stream or whatever, go into the comments there and leave it what we should talk about next when it comes to Star Wars or Marvel, or just basically any kind of geek culture type stuff. But anyways, may the force be with you. I'll see you guys on the Battlefront here in about 20-30 minutes. Peace.